I kind of put this together. I got a little background story on this, and for those that don't know, I have Dara over here, who me and her have been seeing each other a while and stuff, and I decided, well, after we talked about her coming this way, well, we ought to go and get married. So I called up Fred and said, hey, Fred, you want to come to a show? And he'd been here before in Cowboy Church. If you haven't seen him, Fred has a ministry, and he does prison ministry, and that's how me and Fred met. And he came to the prison where I was at. He did a show, and he was going through a few things in his life, and at the same time, and it was the first show back after a while, after he took some time off. And I just wanted to go and see a cowboy poet and laugh a little bit. I had no intention to go in and be preached to or see a minister or anything else. I just wanted to hang out. At the time, I was actually studying to be a Baptist priest. Go figure. But so I go and see the show, and I hear him say one line that actually got to me quite a bit, which was the most important words in the Bible are the first 4 words. I was raised in the church, and I don't even know what the first 4 words were. I had to go find the Bible because I didn't even own one. So I went and found it, and, in the beginning, God. And that still sticks with me. So it helped me kind of get my head straight, and so I got out, and me and Fred got back together, talking stuff. But I asked Fred, I said, so you want to do a show? He said, yeah. I said, all right, you want to marry me and Dara in that show? He said, yeah, what do you think about this? I said, she don't know. I haven't asked her yet. So he said, yeah. So then I got a hold of the gal in Denver, who she's part of the same dog rescue group that I got my dog from, Chica, and she does cakes. And I said, so Kelly, what would you charge me to do? Just a real simple wedding cake, 1 layer, no big deal. Just, for something special. She said, well, is it for you? I said, maybe. She said, what? I said, well, if everything goes right, I'll be getting married around the 21st. She says, what do you mean if everything goes right? I said, I haven't asked yet. So then I got a hold of Millie and everything. We started getting this together, and I got flyers together, and we started advertising it. And Dara still didn't know yet. So 30th last month I proposed, and she said yes. Luckily, if not, we wouldn't be having a wedding with the show because we have a show. But it's amazing how things work out. And I'd like you guys to welcome Fred Ellis. And this is part of his show that he's come up with. And after the show, the band will come up and play a little bit more, and then we'll do the wedding part and have cake and be merry. And I hope everybody has a great time.
I think so. Well, Billy, you got through this, and you pulled it off, and we got all together. My advice, though, don't go into horse trading. It doesn't work like that. What a great way, though, to have a wedding. Everybody gets together, sing some old songs, listen to some good music, and just have a wonderful day of good, solid friendship. Isn't that great? Huh? I'll tell you what, I was really honored and that Billy asked me because of the way we met and how things have transpired with it. So we're going to go on and I'm going to do just a little bit of the show I do in prison. Hope you enjoyed that one. He was leather tanned, thin and bent. His hair was gray, his teeth were spent. A battered Stetson curled his ears. He chewed on a plug while he sipped his beers. Well, he was a cowboy, you could tell at a glance, except for them funny-looking shoes at the bottom of his pants. Well, folks started talking, saying he was a fake. That's when he asked, you got a bronc I can break? We told him of one the meanest around, kept in a pen at the edge of town. The old cowboy talked like he could not lose and went for that cayuse, wearing them funny-looking shoes. Well, bets were made, both heavy and fast. We all knew the old man wouldn't last. Gates set to open and the rigging in place. There came a toothless grin on the old cowboy's face. Well, the big ride ended short and sweet. He broke that bronc, wearing them funny shoes on his feet. He collected his money and went on his way, but none of us will forget that strange day. An old cowboy left La Junta singing the blues when he broke old Jeb wearing high-top tennis shoes. Well, a lot of people, as I performed over the years, have asked, well, how did you become a cowboy? Were you born on a ranch? All these questions. And the truth is, I did not start my cowboy life till I was 43. And I've been at it for about 8 years now. You think that's funny? I was said I was good at math. Anyway, but I had that dream. Well, here's exactly how I got the bug to be a cowboy. Now, being perfectly honest with all you folks, from dudes to wranglers and other cowboys, my first pony was about as rank as any around. Well, he'd buck up his guts till he fell to the ground. I never will forget him. Little Red was his name. Sorrow was his color, long his tail and mane. My bucking outfit was good leather. The color was white. Screwing her down on Little Red was sure an awful fright. My boot just toed the stirrup when he started in to buck. Well, I grabbed the swell and threw him away and straddled the saddle with luck. Well, the ride went for about 12 seconds. Right in my own backyard. The red one of them. I come down and landed pretty hard. Well, again I straddled and again he bucked and again daylight was shown. But every moment on that horse a feeling in me was grown. And when the day had ended, my soul was filled with luster, real dreams and future scenes, and me a top bronc buster. Yeah, my life had changed for a 3-year-old and golfed in a new course. And all because I got bucked off my first little red stick horse. Well, traveling around all over the country, doing shows, meeting people and everything, you can't help but notice how many people stare at you when you walk in somewhere, okay? Because I, like probably most of you, this is the way we dress. You go in some place and, people are like, and they're following you just as though, you might have a turban on your head and the camel parked in the parking lot. But no, it's a diesel truck and this is a cowboy hat. At any rate, this story came about through some situations back. I was sitting in a cafe, Glenwood Springs would be the town, when a slicker from the city slowly looked me up and down. A friendly-looking maverick with questioning blue eyes. I nodded hey, then ordered up steak coffee and foam fries. I asked him if he'd like to sit. There was an empty chair. He thanked me right and began to jaw as he straightened his tie and hair. I doubt you'd ever know it, but I'm a cowboy too. My clothes is all that keeps me from looking just like you. A statement so profound, I wondered at her back. But all that crossed my lips was a simple, that of fact. Yes, I've ridden many a Mustang on the face of this great land. In fact, it was 5 years ago I had a cowboy tan. Interrupted by the waitress bringing me my sup, he started in under the tail just like a playful pup. I heard about the Brandon and things that he had done. There was castrating cats as a boy just for fun. Then the waitress brought his supper, and it made my stomach quease. I was staring at a diet plate, complete with cottage cheese. I asked him if a cowboy, how can you eat this scatter? And nodded my food. He said to me, well, apparently, sir, to you, health doesn't matter. Dessert came next. More coffee, please, and a chocolate mousse. It was for me. My friend, you see, ordered yogurt and carrot juice. Well, the meal being over, I rose to take my leave while he was talking about a Democrat dog and hanging on my sleeve. I knew the night was shot and I'd have to pay the price for filling up that empty chair just trying to be nice. Story after story with him, the cowboy star, but on his fourth Kirk Grummet, I said, "You've gone too far. Mister, you're a phony. In fact, you are a liar. Why, I struck a match. Why, in fact, you are a liar. Why, words are grass and I struck a match. You'd be a prairie fire. You're only a cowboy wannabe, a dandy in a three-piece suit, driving Jaguar wheels, eating funny meals, and drinking bottled water to boot." Then he told me of a ranch he bought. The closing was last week. A 1,300 acre spread up on Willow Creek. I asked him who the cow boss was. Said I'd never met the feller. But when he spoke my name aloud, I turned to Jaundice Yeller. Well, the next day at the ranch, there's really no surprise. You can see the look from a true West book coming right through this man's eyes. Only a cowboy wants to be. I believe that's what you said. Well, pack your gear. You're out of here. We've rented out your bed. A statement so profound I wanted to utter back. But all that crossed my lips was a simple that of fact. So let this be a lesson, and next time alone you eat, and across from you is an empty chair. Just use it for your feet. And if someone is staring at you in your cowboy clothes, you can always make them turn away by picking at your nose. They will say, "How disgusting!" and turn to you their back. And you can say a line profound by stating that a fact. Well, I was reading some stuff about cowboy churches today. And, their popularity and all. And I like cowboy churches. I really do. I just think that the word's spoken, everybody's sincere, and it's wonderful. But here's some things that really are never really told about them. That you're in a cowboy church if any of the following happen. The pastor asked Cody to help take up the collection, and 5 guys and 2 gals stand up. The baptismal pool is a 6-foot round stock tank. The minister and his wife drive matching pickup trucks. And "thou shalt not covet" applies to cow dogs, and any jackpot roping is recognized as an official church holiday. Is that true? Well, preacher went hunting. It was on Sunday morning. Though it was against his religion, he took his gun along. And he shot himself some very fine quail, one little measly old hare. And on the way returning home, he met a great big grizzly bear. Well, that bear marched out in the middle of the road and walked to the preacher, you see. Well, that preacher, he got so excited, he pulled a big pine tree. That bear sat down in the middle of the road, and the preacher, he climbed down on a limb. He cast his eyes to the God of the skies, and these words he said to him: "Oh, Lord, didn't you deliver Daniel from the lion's den? Also deliver Jonah from the belly of the whale." And then the 3 Hebrew children from the fire heard, so the good book do declare, "Well, Lord, if you can't help me for goodness sake, don't you help that bear." Well, that bear sat down in that road, and the preacher climbed out on that other stone, so he cried all night. Long about daybreak, he cast his eyes to the God in the sky and said, "Lord, if you want to help that bear, you're going to see one awful fight." Just about then, the limb broke, and the preacher, he come floating down. Well, it was sad to see him just before he hit the ground. Well, he hit on the earth, cutting left and right. He did put up a pretty good fight. But just about then, that bear grabbed him, squeezed him over too tight. Well, the preacher, he dropped his hunting knife, but the bear held on with a vim. And one more time he gets eyes to God in the skies, and these words he said to him: "Oh, Lord, didn't you deliver Daniel from the lion's den? Also deliver Jonah from the belly of the whale." And then 3 Hebrew children with a fire furnace, so the good book do declare. Well, oh Lord, if you believe you can't help me for goodness sakes, don't you help that bear! A lot of people wonder, since that, song ends like that, how did the preacher escape? Well, I got to looking into it. And you see, the preacher, he was Pentecostal. And they like to eat a lot. Alright? They eat all the time. They always have a celebration to eat. And so he knew what was about to transpire. Well, the bear, he was Baptist. And the preacher also knew that Baptists, every time they bow their head, they're told, bow your head, close your eyes, and no peeking. So the preacher said, since this is going to be a meal, I just feel inclined to say a blessing. Have a silent prayer. He said, would you mind bowing your head, Mr. Bear? Close your eyes and no peeking. And please fold your paws. That old bear did that. That preacher was gone. Some say that bear sat there for over a day with his eyes closed and his head bowed. He was afraid to peek. But that's how that preacher got away. I always like to do a classic because it was the men and women who wrote cowboy poetry, in the 30s and the 20s and even 100 years ago. That gives us our great culture of cowboy poetry. And they wrote in a time and an era that we'll never know. But anybody that's had a little inkling of what it might have been, 20, 50 years ago, can identify with their poetry. This is called the Sire Peace. Gale Gardner wrote this. He was from Arizona. He went to Dartmouth, I believe, and he ran Ivy League college. Graduated, went back to Arizona, and cowboyed the rest of his life. He wrote some beautiful stuff. Now, Powder River Pete was a singer. The story goes, he stole the poem, put it to music real quick, but he called it Knots in the Devil's Tail. And there's a song, Knots in the Devil's Tail. But the actual poem was written by Gale Gardner, and it was called the Sire Peaks, which in Arizona is the Sierra Peaks. But they call them the Sire Peaks. And what happened to the Sire Peaks with the yellow jack grow tall? Buster Jig and Sandy Bob had a road deer camp last fall. They took their horses and running irons, maybe a doe or two, and they vowed they'd land their. I'm sorry, I get some water. Boy, my throat's dry. Anyway, what happened to Sire Pete with a yellow pine grow tall? Sandy Bob and Buster Jig had a road deer camp last fall. Well, they'd taken their horses and running irons and maybe a dog or two, and now they'd brand every long-eared calf that came within their view. Now, any old hoopy that flapped long ears and didn't brush up by day got his long ears whittled and his old hide sizzled in a most artistic way. Well, one fine day, old Sandy Bobby throws a seagull down. So sick of the smell of burning hair and loves them going to town. So they saddles him up and hits him a lope, for it weren't no sight of a ride. And them was the days when a buckaroo would oil up his inside. Well, they starts him out at the Kentucky bar, the head of Whiskey Road. Winds up down at the depot house, 40 drinks below. They then sets him up, turns him around, and goes her the other way. Well, to tell you the God-forsaken truth, them boys got stewed that day. Well, on the way returning home and packing a pretty good load, who should they meet but the devil himself come a-prancing down the road. Said he, "You hungry cowboy skunks, get our hunt your hole, 'cause I have come up from hell's rim rock to gather in your souls." Oh, Sandy Bob says, "That will be nice. Boys is kind of tight. But you ain't got no cowboy souls that you have some kind of fight." So he punched a hole in his old sea-goat, and he swam it straight and true. Lapped it over the devil's horns, and he's taking his dallies too. Now Buster Jig was a Riata man with his gut line coiled up neat. So he shakes her out, he builds him a loop, and he lassos the devil's hind feet. Well, they stretch him out and tail him down when the irons was getting hot. Then they cropped, swallowed his ears, and branded him up a lot. Pruned him up with a D-horn and saw, knotted his tail for a joke, then rode off with him necked up to a blackjack oak. So if you're ever up in the Sire Peaks, and you hear them howl, it's only the devil complaining about them knots tied in his tail. That just shows you don't mess with a cowboy. Well, how many can you guys see this buckle here? Can you see it? You guys see this buckle? Well, I wish I could. No. I haven't seen that buckle since it came in the box. But I have, the ministry I call it Christian Cowboy Ministries. And the logo I designed was the Christian fish with a slanted cross in it, and then ride for the brand. Because you see, that's an expression, you might hear it out here, but most places you don't hear that ride for the brand anymore. And back in the days, 20s, 30s, and even before, nobody ever said, I ride for, the Smith Ranch, the Joneses, or whatever. They'd always say, I ride for and get the brand. Double O, bar A-N. Because that brand to them was sacred. And they rode for that brand, they gave their all for that brand. There used to be a saying that said, we don't hold any complaining. If you don't like it here, take your saddle, go down the road, find another horse that'll fit. Because that's how much they gave you that brand. And that's why I chose that. Because you see, I ride for the brand of Jesus Christ. And that's the only brand I'll ever ride for. I don't think there's a greater brand that we can ride for. And so I wear that buckle with pride. And I've had some people look at it and go, wow, is that a trophy buckle? You bet it is. A real trophy buckle. But when I got it, I looked at it, and it was just what I wanted, but then the story came to mind. Ever seen the pictures of an old-time buckaroo? Well, I've done all the things them fellers used to do. So why ain't I been chosen for the authentic cowboy pose? A sure enough wrong stomper and turning century clothes. Now I can sit a raw bone hoss somewhere on the plains, or even at a coach and six at the driving reins. Now picture me in woolies with cuffs upon my wrist, displaying folks a rawhide line clinched within my fist. Now I've met some Rexall Rangers that got their picture took, saw it some years later printed in a cowboy book. But shutterbug after shutterbug has always passed me by. So I asked a friend of mine, give me the reason why. Reason's very simple, pard. Your buckle can't be found, and you can't see your boot tips when you're looking at the ground. The cowboys in them old tin types are skinny as a rail. Folks just don't buy pictures of a Stetson on a whale. Then he gave me some suggestions to get the cowboy scene, like eating veggies every day till I was thin and lean. Or maybe change my wardrobe to a different western look by tying on an apron to pose as the outfit's cook. I damned her rose as I barked out in cowboy way, giving up beef and biscuits and gravy for veggies every day. So I made myself a solemn vow to uphold the cowboy life. So when you see my picture, pard, I'll be holding the butcher knife. That's all. Well, you hear a lot of stories about cow dogs. And it's interesting because all of the cowboys and ranchers that I knew that had the greatest cow dog in the world at Jane's Cafe for coffee. When you had a roundup, their dogs were either in the pickup chain or they couldn't make it because they were home chained. And so at any rate, but you hear all the stories. Well, I had a cow dog, old Tip, and Tip rode with me for 13 and a half years. He really was a good cow dog. He wouldn't hold a gate. I mean, you could put, I don't care whether you put 1 or 50 in that pen. You left that gate open to go get any more. Those that start moving to that gate, no Tip and go, yo, you left the gate open. No, you lay there in front of it. But he'd move cows, he'd bring them out of the brush and everything. Never nipped them, you know. He worked with you pretty well. Once in a while he'd screw up, but for the most part, he was, you know, pretty decent cow dog to work with. Well, I started a program for the children of inmates, and we take kids on week-long horse trips. We did that for 8 years. And so this gal donated some pasture so I could keep the horses. So we were over there stringing fence. This friend of mine, Scotty, was with me. And I get way down the line. Scotty's got these walkie-talkies. He gives me one. Pretty soon I get this. Hey, Fred. Yeah? Where's Tip? I don't know. He's around here somewhere. What? Jean, and Jean is the lady that owned the property. But Jean just came down and said a brown dog killed her chicken. Now, Tip was reddish, but I go, well, couldn't have been Tip, man. He's been around chickens and everything. You didn't bother him. So my dogs are black and white, and they're both here. I said, it couldn't have been Tip. Just then, I looked up, and here comes Tip down the hill. He had that look on his face like, I took care of it, Park. We're safe. You can go do all the fencing you want. Don't worry about things. The closer he got, I thought, his nose is deformed. He got a little closer. I thought, no, it isn't. It's got dirt caked on the end of it. He's buried something. So off we go back up to the top, and here's Jean. She is distraught. Oh, God, you're going to kill my chicken. And the chicken was the goose's friend. Oh, now we really got a problem. This goose was one of those mean gooses. Really mean. Okay? But Tip wouldn't take anything off that goose. Well, Tip would start running after that goose. That goose would run in the pen, just bury its head under its wing, and just lay out like that. Oh, Tip, come out, said, took care of her, Bart. It's okay. Well, what happened, Jean? You know, I said, okay, Jean, I'm sorry. So would you bury the chicken for me? I thought, I just thought Tip did. You know, what happened, a double funeral for one chicken? So anyway, I said, yeah. So she says, up by the water tank. So I go up there. You can see just a little bit of the feathers. I bend down, pull it out, and goes, hey, it's alive! And over in the corner is the goose. He's still got his head under his wing. He ain't moving. What happened? She had this small pen. The gate was open. And the goose and the chicken kept coming out. Tip kept herding them back in. Okay? Finally, he just looked at that hen, probably said, okay, lady, I've had it with you. Come here. Whoop! Dug a hole, buried it, covered it up, and after he said, that's fine, okay? She won't bother us while we get this fencing done. And I got to thinking about that, though, and I thought, you know, isn't that the way it is with our Heavenly Father? Tip didn't know he was doing anything wrong. He was doing what he was trained to do. And sometimes we do that. We step out to do something to help somebody else, serve our Lord or whatever, and all of a sudden, that dry ground becomes a mud puddle and we're covered with mud, and you just have to say, Lord, I didn't mean for it to turn out like this. But you know what I did with Tip? I just reached down, patted him on the head and said, it's okay, buddy. He just was trying to do the right thing. And I think that's one thing we have when we have Christ. Is He knows when we're just trying to do the right thing. Even though we make a mistake, it's not like we have to go and, oh, I'm sorry. He knows. He knows. And more than once, He's just put His arm around me and says, I know, Mark. I know. You know, let's just go on from there with it. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being a Christian. And then, for years I had an outfitting business. And this was, of course, before I got Tip, started working a bunch of places. And summer rides were my favorite. I mean, we're coming in and out of the hunting season. And, you know, I'm a hunter. How many in here are hunters? Okay, I'm a hunter. And I have been for years. But what is it about some that come from out of state when they put on that blaze orange? You know, I was going to run a survey on that. I figured I probably could have gotten a government grant for $500,000 to prove that anybody who is not a hunter in Colorado, or not a resident of Colorado who hunts, when they put that blaze orange, it affects their mind. It really does. And their IQ lowers. Now, if you have an embroidered deer, it even goes down a little further. If you have an embroidered elk, there's no help. For 1 week, you're just a complete idiot, you know? And I saw that so many times. I mean, we were in the cafe, Scotty and I, having coffee, 9 o'clock in the morning. I sold my outfitting business a number of years before. And here come these guys in from hunting. Okay, they're going to have breakfast, obviously. At any rate, they sit there. One guy has one of those blaze orange hats that has the flashlight up here in the middle. You know, you just turn the lens, turn it on and off. It's on. 9 o'clock in the morning, the light's on. Now, I'm a little concerned about that if I'd be in the woods, you know. And at any rate, they sit there around this table, order coffee, and they start talking. The guy with the light looks over at his buddy across the table, and his buddy goes, because that light is shining right in his eyes. He looks over at the guy next to him, the guy next to him goes, they did this through 2 cups of coffee. Nobody said anything to him. Now, you know, I've heard that old expression, but that's the first time I ever saw it. There's a light on upstairs, but there ain't nobody home. And this finger, that finger right there, that cost me my outfitting business and career as a guide. Because we go out, I go through the wood, and I get there. Now, I never walked, take it back, I only walked in front of one of my hunters once. The very first year I had the business, I had this guy behind me. We're going along the trail, and I glance back and I see this. I stopped, said, pardon me, you go first. I said, I'll show you if there's something that comes up. But anyway, that cost me my business because we get up there and I look out and say, okay, there's another. Where? Over by the pine. Right there. And they always sit there just like, I said, no, right there. See? I don't see where it is. And then pretty soon it got to where, okay, see? Straight ahead. And so that finger cost me my entire outfitting business. Oh, well, there's always something else you can do. But this story came from a summer ride. I really liked the summer rides because they were easy. People had a good time, you know. And at any rate, we'd been up for a couple weeks, and this young wrangler I had really getting itchy feet, go down and kick up his heels in town. So he came up to me and he said, hey, Fred, can I take the ride out tomorrow? He said, it's the last day. I said, sure. Well, there's a very attractive young lady on the right. I knew what he was going to do. Put her right behind him so he could see if he could line up a date. So we start off. How many of you know or have ever experienced the effects of beans on the human body? Huh? I like it. Nobody will raise their hand, but you can see the smiles coming out. Like, well, maybe. Well, the same thing happens to horses in the high country when they've been grazing all night on that Timothy gas up there. We start off, and all of a sudden, like the dude used to say, oh, look at me, I got me the little green trail markers. If that's what you call them, that's good enough for me. And then my guide's horse goes into his impersonation of Louis Armstrong on the trumpet. And we're riding along, and pretty soon he reins in, looks back, says, Pam, I'm really sorry. I have to apologize. I'm really embarrassed about this. See, up here we don't think anything about this. It's just nature. It just happens. But, you know, if I'd have known this was going to happen, I would never, ever have put you behind me. And I really apologize for this. I am. I'm just really embarrassed. And the gal looked at him and said, well, cowboy, you know, you are sweet. And I really, really appreciate your honesty. Because, see, if you'd have never said anything, I'd have never known. All this time, I thought it was your horse. You have to be kind of careful when you praise stuff. Well, I've done this in all but 2 shows since I wrote this. The 2 shows I didn't do this in, boy, I was raked over the coals. So this is my trademark. And this is what we're going to wrap this part of it up with. Now sit back, sucker, don't open that gate. I'm about to set the story straight. A fork-tongued lie plus the leppy lip, said the cowboy today, well, he just ain't hip. He drinks his coffee and he talks real slow. And all of his stories are long ago. Well, don't try to leave or take no nap. You're about to hear a cowboy rap. Well, what? They wear their hats backwards. They don't know whether they're coming or going. Well, I break horses if they don't break me. About a bad back stiff neck and arthritic knee. My arms lump about and then I walk with the kid. I'm a dog riding man when I was in Cheyenne. My daddy of them all, I was hooking and a raking and having me a ball. First was mine, but I had it by the tip. Last night's fun. Second me playing to the inside. That was the end of my Cheyenne ride. Now I ain't worth looking around seeing my father. They were shorty and snorty under the old mason jar. No born after called it Eve Barcette. Named that hustle that came from heaven. Fate was the one I remember the best. Shoving my pills up into my chest. From the very first buck, my MC grew from a size 34 to a size 42. But I was going to read my long-tailed shirts after that ride that fit me like skirts. You just heard this cowboy story. How we ride for love and glory. Don't open your mouth and prove to be a fool. Saying the cowboy just ain't cool. Well, our boots and leggings and hat. And then, my friend, we'll start right side. Yes, sir! Every year that gets a little harder and harder. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to take a short break because a couple of us are going to change into more official outfits. And then we're going to come back for the real reason we're here. Is to celebrate a wonderful, wonderful day. In the meantime, I'm going to ask the group to come back and play some songs. So if you want to stretch, use the restroom, do whatever, give us about 10 minutes or so, and don't anybody leave. Because if you do, we have your name and number, and there will be a missionary at your door. Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to take about 10. Group's going to come back and play for a minute.